You think manipulation unlocks human compliance. You imagine masters of influence deploying dark psychology, dominant body posture, or intricate mind games to bend others to their will. Reality paints a different picture. The most influential individuals on Earth reject forced compliance. They manufacture genuine connection. They do not talk people into corners. They listen them into submission. Dale Carnegie published his seminal work decades ago, yet modern neuroscience and behavioral economics validate his assertions with flawless precision. To master human relations, you must discard the instinct to conquer and embrace the discipline to understand. We will not explore a disjointed list of tips. We will dissect the psychology of human connection through a sequence of specific modules. Module 1. The Trap of Criticism. You sit across a conference table. The room feels sterile, chilled by the hum of the air conditioner. Your colleague presents a flawed strategy. Your mind races to correct the errors. You believe logic dictates human behavior. You assume pointing out a mistake produces an instant correction and profound gratitude. You wait for the speaker to pause, and you launch your critique, listing every flaw in their logic. Watch the physical transformation across the table. The colleague's jaw tightens. Shoulders elevate toward the ears. Eyes narrow, locking onto a spot on the wall. The spine goes rigid. The person stops breathing in deep rhythms, shifting to shallow, defensive pants. You triggered the mammalian threat response. When you attack a person's work, the brain perceives a physical threat. Cortisol floods the bloodstream. The amygdala hijacks the prefrontal cortex. The individual loses the capacity for rational thought. A 2024 DDI assessment of 70,000 manager candidates revealed that 49% fail to demonstrate effective conflict management because they assume facts matter more than feelings, leading to disastrous disputes. Furthermore, data from GitNux in 2026 demonstrates that unresolved conflict reduces team productivity by 40%, with nearly half of these clashes originating from bruised egos. Criticism acts as a match in a powder keg. It puts the recipient on the defensive. It forces them to justify their actions. It wounds a person's precious pride, hurts their sense of importance, and arouses bitter resentment. Carnegie formulated a bedrock principle. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain. You must practice supreme restraint. When you feel the urge to correct someone, bite the inside of your cheek. Swallow the correction. Seek to understand why the person acted in such a manner. Replacing criticism with curiosity diffuses the ego defense mechanism. You build a bridge instead of erecting a wall. By holding your tongue, you preserve their dignity. Abraham Lincoln understood this mechanism. During the Civil War, when a general failed a critical mission, Lincoln wrote a scorching letter of condemnation. He folded the paper, placed it in a desk drawer, and left it there. He knew that sending it would only create an enemy. If criticism backfires, how do you inspire people to improve their performance? That requires understanding the most scarce resource in the modern workplace. Module 2. The Currency of Appreciation. Picture a dedicated worker. He arrives before the sun rises, stays past sunset, and produces stellar work. He pours his soul into a project. He hands the final report to the manager. The manager accepts the folder with a dismissive nod, turns back to the computer monitor, and assigns the next task. The worker walks away. The emptiness settles in his chest. His shoulders slump. His steps drag heavy across the carpet. His gaze drops to the floor. The flame of motivation extinguishes in an instant. We take exceptional effort for granted. We reserve our words for pointing out flaws, maintaining absolute silence when things go right. This silence destroys organizations from the inside out. The physical toll of being ignored manifests in exhaustion, brain fog, and a deep dread of the morning alarm. Gallup data from 2024 shows that only 33% of United States employees feel engaged at work. When people feel invisible, they leave. Research published by ACS Professional Staffing in 2025 reveals that organizations implementing robust employee recognition witness a 45% drop in turnover. Zoe Talent Solutions in 2025 noted that 66% of employees would abandon their current role if they felt underappreciated. The human craving for appreciation mirrors the biological need for food or water. Denying it causes psychological starvation. Give honest and sincere appreciation. Carnegie draws a massive distinction between appreciation and flattery. Flattery originates from the teeth out. It is selfish, shallow, and deceptive. It is counterfeit money. Sincere appreciation originates from the heart. It is real gold. You must observe the specific actions a person takes and voice your gratitude for those exact behaviors. Say the words out loud. Write the handwritten note. Acknowledge the hidden effort. The person will cherish your words, repeating them in their mind for years. People crave recognition. Feed that craving with truth. You express sincere appreciation, but you still need to capture their undivided attention before pitching a new idea. To bypass their mental filters, you must deploy a specific neurological trigger. Module 3. The neurological power of a name. You attend a networking event. The room buzzes with chatter and clinking glasses. You shake a stranger's hand. They state their name. 5 seconds pass, and the name vanishes from your mind. Later in the conversation, you attempt to reference them and stumble into an awkward dance of generic pronouns. Hey man. The stranger forces a polite smile, but the warmth drains from their face in a flash. Their eyes drift over your shoulder, scanning the room for an exit. You lost them. A name represents a person's entire identity. Getting it wrong, or forgetting it altogether, signals a profound lack of respect. When you stand in a loud, crowded room and someone speaks your name, your attention snaps toward the source. Psychologists label this the cocktail party effect, rooted in mid-century experiments, showing people notice their own name amid chaotic noise a high percentage of the time. Modern science validates this phenomenon. A 2006 functional magnetic resonance imaging study by Carmody and Lewis demonstrated that hearing one's own name activates specific regions in the left hemisphere of the brain, including the middle frontal cortex, the middle temporal cortex, and the cuneus. Hearing your own name triggers unique brain functioning distinct from hearing any other words. When you fail to use a name, you fail to activate the brain. Remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. Make it a priority to memorize names. When introduced, repeat the name in your greeting. Ask about the spelling if it sounds unusual. Associate the name with a vivid mental image. Weave the name into the fabric of the conversation, anchoring the person's attention to your message. Franklin D. Roosevelt knew the names of his mechanics, the staff members, and the dignitaries alike, earning unmatched loyalty. Now that you hold their absolute focus, what should you say next to make them like you? The answer defies standard logic. Module 4. The art of silent persuasion. You sit at a dinner table on a first date. The other person speaks without pausing for breath. They recount their triumphs, detail their obscure hobbies, and list their future aspirations. Your eyes glaze over. You lean back in your chair, crossing your arms across your chest. Your feet point toward the exit. You feel trapped. The talker believes they are dazzling you with their charisma. In reality, they are suffocating you. Human beings possess a desperate urge to feel understood. We carry a heavy burden of thoughts, fears, and dreams. When another person dominates the airspace, they deny us the release valve we crave. We do not want to hear a monologue. We want an audience. We want a witness to our existence. Be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves. Carnegie insists that the road to a person's heart requires letting them do the talking. Ask open questions. Lean forward. Maintain eye contact. Nod your head in rhythm with their cadence. When they finish a sentence, pause before you respond. This silence invites them to expand on their thoughts. By offering them the stage, you grant them significance. Carnegie once attended a dinner party and spent hours listening to a botanist Carnegie spoke less than a dozen words, yet the botanist later described him as the most fascinating conversationalist of the evening. The magic lies in the space you provide for their ego to expand. Providing space creates affection, but what happens when you must convince them to take an action they resist? How do you motivate movement without using force? Module 5. The alignment of desires. You stand in the kitchen. You want your child to eat a plate of broccoli. You command them to finish the vegetables because you want a clean plate. The child crosses their arms, clamps their mouth shut, and shakes their head. You escalate your voice. The child begins to cry. The battle ends in exhaustion and uneaten food. You focused on your own desire. The harsh truth of human nature dictates that nobody cares about what you want. Every person operates driven by their own internal desires, fears, and ambitions. When you frame a request around your needs, you face a brick wall of apathy. You must cross the boundary of your own perspective and inhabit theirs. You do not bait a fishing hook with strawberries and cream just because you enjoy eating strawberries and cream. You bait the hook with a worm because the fish desires the worm. Arouse in the other person an eager want. If you want a behavior change, you must tie that behavior to their deepest desires. Does the child want to grow tall and strong to play sports? Frame the broccoli as the precise fuel required for that specific goal. In the business realm, if you want an employee to take on a difficult project, do not cite company quotas. Highlight how the project develops the exact skills they need for the promotion they desire. Talk in terms of what the other person wants and show them the clear path to achieve it. You aligned their desires with your request, yet a massive disagreement surfaces regarding the execution. The friction sparks a debate. How do you emerge victorious without destroying the relationship? Module 6. The myth of the one argument. The holiday dinner reaches a crescendo. A relative voices a political opinion you find absurd. Your pulse quickens. Blood rushes to your face. You lean across the table, slamming your palm against the wood, and unleash a torrent of facts to dismantle their position. Watch the fallout. Their face flushes with anger. Their posture turns rigid. They reject your logic and double down on their original stance, defending it with fierce irrationality. ACUS data from 2025 highlights this destructive pattern, showing that 44% of the working population experiences individual conflict, leading to record highs in stress-related absences. A Work-Life Digital report from 2025 adds that 88% of employees say such conflict crushes team morale. You cannot win an argument. If you lose, you lose. If you win, you shatter the other person's pride. You prove them inferior. That humiliation breeds a deep, enduring resentment. A man convinced against his will remains of the same opinion still. The only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. Dodge it, like a rattlesnake. When a disagreement looms, control your temper. Listen first. Look for areas of agreement. Promise to think over their ideas. Say the magic words that eliminate hostility. I do not blame you one iota for feeling as you do. If I were you, I would feel the same way. This statement validates their emotion without endorsing their logic. It disarms their defenses. You avoided the bitter argument. You validated their emotions. But a tangible error still requires correction. How do you fix a mistake without shattering their fragile ego? Module 7. The architecture of change. A subordinate misses a critical deadline. The error costs the company a lucrative contract. You call them into your office. The tension suffocates the room. The subordinate sits with a bowed head, clutching their hands in their lap, waiting for the executioner's axe to fall. The ticking of the wall clock sounds like a hammer. If you deliver a direct, blistering reprimand, you crush their spirit. The fear of failure paralyzes their future efforts. They will hide subsequent mistakes to avoid another public flaying. They will view you as an adversary rather than a leader. Humiliation forces retreat. Call attention to people's mistakes indirectly and talk about your own mistakes before criticizing the other person. Begin the conversation by recounting a time you made a similar catastrophic error. Describe the shame you felt. Describe the consequences. By lowering yourself to their level, you remove the sting of judgment. You become a mentor guiding a peer rather than a tyrant dispensing punishment. Next, ask questions instead of giving direct orders. Ask them what they think went wrong. Ask them how the team can structure the timeline better for the next sprint. Let them uncover the solution. Finally, let the other person save face. Praise the slightest improvement. Give them a fine reputation to live up to. Tell them you believe in their potential. When people feel trusted, they move mountains to justify that trust. You addressed the error and preserved their dignity. Now you must implement a new strategy moving forward. How do you ensure they do not reject your new plan upon arrival? Module 8. The momentum of agreement. You need to pitch a massive operational change to your team. You walk into the boardroom and present the grand, controversial idea right out of the gate. The team crosses their arms, brows furrow, heads shake side to side. Once a person voices a rejection, their entire physiological and psychological system gathers to defend that stance. Their pride demands they remain consistent. The vocal cords tighten. The heart rate increases. You face an impenetrable fortress of resistance. Changing a refusal into an acceptance requires monumental effort. Get the other person saying yes, yes, right from the start. Utilize the Socratic method. Socrates asked questions his opponent had to agree with, winning one admission after another. Begin your presentation by highlighting the shared goals. Ask a series of questions that yield affirmative answers. Do we want to increase revenue? Yes. Do we want to reduce overtime hours? Yes. Do we agree the current system causes delays? Yes. Build a chain of agreements. By the time you introduce the primary proposal, their mind flows in a positive, receptive direction. The psychological momentum carries them past their initial reservations. You built positive momentum, but you face an individual acting out of pure selfishness. How do you force a rogue actor to comply? Module 9. The appeal to nobility. You face an individual breaching an agreement. A client refuses to pay a legitimate invoice. A vendor breaks a contract. You prepare an angry email. You threaten legal action. You prepare to go to war. Threats breed defiance. When you push someone into a corner, they bare their teeth. They justify their actions to themselves, creating an intricate web of excuses. If you label them a thief or a liar, they will embrace the role just to spite you. Appeal to the nobler motives. J. Pierpont Morgan observed that a person usually has two reasons for doing a thing, one that sounds good and a real one. You do not need to highlight the real reason. Instead, appeal to the reason that sounds good. Treat them as if they possess immense integrity. Assume they are honest, upright, and fair. Tell the client you know they take pride in their pristine reputation. Tell the vendor you admire their historical commitment to excellence. When you assign someone a noble character, they will endure massive inconvenience to avoid shattering your high opinion of them. You appeal to their nobility, but in a noisy world, polite words sometimes fall flat. How do you make your message impossible to ignore? Module 10. The power of dramatization. You present quarterly statistics to a board of directors. You stand at the front of the room, reading numbers off a monochrome slide. You state the facts in a monotone voice. The board members check their phones. Their eyes glaze over. Their minds wander to their lunch plans. The human brain deletes boring information. We live in an era of endless distraction. Merely stating a truth fails to capture imagination. Dramatize your ideas. The television industry understands this mechanism. A commercial for a cleaning product does not just list chemical ingredients. It shows a side-by-side comparison of a filthy coin transforming into a shining piece of silver. You must make the truth vivid, interesting, and dramatic. If you want to demonstrate how much money a department wastes, do not just hand over a spreadsheet. Walk into the meeting and dump a bucket of shredded currency onto the mahogany table. The visual shock arrests their attention. The physical manifestation of your idea forces them to engage with the reality of the situation. Show, Do not just tell. You grabbed their attention, but you want them to defend the ultimate plan with unmatched ferocity. How do you manufacture absolute loyalty to an idea? Module 11. The illusion of authorship. You write a brilliant project plan. You hand the detailed blueprint to a colleague. You tell them to execute your plan word for word. The colleague takes the paper, but their eyes remain flat. They drag their feet through the execution phase. They exhibit zero passion. People resent dictates. When you force your idea upon someone, they feel like a disposable cog in a vast machine. They will do the bare minimum required to collect a paycheck. Let the other person feel that the idea is theirs. Colonel Edward M. House wielded massive influence over President Woodrow Wilson by planting seeds in the president's mind. House would casually mention an idea. Days later, Wilson would present the same idea as his own creation. House never interrupted to claim credit. He cared about results, not praise. Plant the seed of the idea in your team's mind. Ask for their advice on a specific problem. Let them connect the dots. When they voice the conclusion, praise their brilliance. People support what they help create. Mastering human relations demands letting go of your own ego. You cannot force a flower to bloom by pulling its petals. You must nurture the soil, provide the water, and let the sun do its work. Human behavior follows the exact same organic law. Mastering external relationships begins with conquering your internal chaos. You now understand how to handle others, but true influence requires profound personal responsibility. Click the video on your screen right now to explore 12 Rules for Life, Jordan B. Peterson, and build your unshakable foundation. Human behavior follows organic laws. You cannot force connection, you must nurture it. But mastering relationships is impossible if your own internal world is crumbling. Click the video on your screen right now to explore 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson and build the unshakable psychological foundation you need to thrive.